back to my channel. Today I have a very special guest all the way from 5 minutes up the road.
Yeah.
It is Joe Galvin.
Hello.
Boyfriend and photographer extraordinaire. So basically for today's video we were thinking of doing like a photography Q&A. It was going to start to be like a Wednesday series initially. It was going to be like a Wednesday workshop where we talk through different blogging things.
What do you mean initially? Has it already gone out the window?
Well, this is going up on a Sunday.
Oh, no.
So...
Oh, well,
yeah.
It was a good idea.
Yeah, so maybe if this goes down well, we'll start that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So obviously we're doing Wednesday videos now. But yeah, we're going to do like a Wednesday workshop where we talk about blogging or how we shoot. I get a lot of questions about how we shoot outfit pictures. Maybe take you along.
Kind of more technical stuff.
And see me being a hashtag diva where I'm just getting really angry and going, this isn't working. But yeah. Anyway, for today's video, we are going to be doing a photography kind of blog question Q&A. We had quite a few questions from like Instagram, Snapchat and Twitter.
I'm glad actually, there were some quite good questions.
Yeah, really good, really interesting questions. So thank you if you did tweet and use the hashtag and avoided it looking like a complete empty hashtag when no one used it. There's always a risk when you say, ask me questions using this hashtag and then no one uses it and you're like, oh, okay. Like I'm just gonna ask my friends to quickly ask me questions to populate it a bit. But anyway, if you did ask a question, thank you so much because you've got a really cool selection. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please let us know what other kind of videos in this series you'd like to see because you're the people that matter, so yeah.
Yeah, it really is just about people who watch it. Just kind of
it's all about you.
Bit of
it's
advice,
all about
if
you.
anyone wants it. So
yeah, we hope you enjoy and let's get going.
Let's get going.
So first question that we got asked, probably most of all, was what kit do we use? So we have kind of used the same kit for a really long time and it doesn't...
It's been about 2 years now.
Yeah, and it doesn't really ever change that much. So we don't have like a huge library of lenses or anything like that really. It's
not, I think it's not really necessary to have like, when you're shooting very specific stuff like we do, I mean, specifically with outfit photos and kind of portrait street style, you don't really need to have a massive amount of flexibility when it comes to the sort of lenses that you have. So we kind of tend to we've kind of kept the same thing. So we shoot on, the body that we shoot on is Canon 5D Mark III, which we've had for 2 years now, and it really is,
Maggie just walked past and she hit the lamp and it like literally went spinning and she was just like, yeah, zero. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So that's the body we use. It is an expensive body.
Yeah, we used before that. Sorry to interrupt. Before that, we used the 550D, which actually I think has been discontinued. But I know a lot of people use the 600 or the 70.
The 70 as well.
And the 70 as well, which are similar models, but they're slightly cheaper. So it's because I started off with a Nikon or Nikon D40, and we kind of got to this point over a few years. So it's not necessary to kind of
not at all. I think that's the important thing. I think I think it's easy because a lot of people do shoot with Mark IIs or Mark IIIs, which are pricey, and it's kind of, you can sometimes be a bit put off by that, but all you really have to do is look at Liv's photos from 2 years ago and realise that that was shot on a camera that was a couple of £100 on a lens that was like 70 quid. Yeah. So like there is like, I think it's just...
Yeah, I think it's about like developing your personal style. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, that is the kit we use. For vlogging, we use the Olympus pen. I think it's the EPL7. I'm not sure. I'll link the actual details below. But we just use that with the kit lens, with a few like glossy shots from the Canon.
No, you don't use the kit lens. You use a 45mm.
Yeah, I use the kit lens as well. I use two lenses. Yeah. So we use the kit lens primarily. I don't really like switching them up too much. It's kind of, I'm lazy, really lazy. And then I also have a little Canon point and shoot, which my mum and dad adopted. So those are holidays. So that was the initial vlogging camera, but that is primarily
it really is it's a lot more simple than you'd think.
So that is the kit we use in those long-winded ways possible. So the next question are, what lenses do you use and what lenses are good for people that know little about photography? I was gonna like dive straight in.
Do you want to say it?
I want to say it. Okay. You can ask too, but in my opinion, the best lens to use, either if you're starting out or even now we still use it, doing it full time, is the 50mm 1.8. I think that's the best
That's
starter
the best
lens.
starter.
It's the most reasonable lens I think on the market for the quality it delivers. It's amazing. So the 1.8, we actually use the 1.4 at the moment, which I really love.
We're in the process. I'm in the process of several eBay wars to try and get a 35 1.4. That's the next step.
Yeah.
Which is slightly more expensive.
There's a few on our wish list. We wanted the 2470, but we're just deliberating which ones we're going to get the most use out of, because the 50mm is amazing for near enough everything. It's a fixed lens, so you do have to stand quite far back from the camera when you're taking the photo. That's the only thing.
But I think,
I think offer.
But that's why we want to get the 35mm. So basically, I mean, we're doing blogging and photography, like fixed lenses are so much more worthwhile an investment than getting a zoom lens. And the reason for that is because by and large you've got the person you're shooting, you've got a person shooting it. You can move further back if you need to, you can move further forward if you need to get the framing right. But the advantage that the fixed lens, particularly 50mm, the 85mm and the 35mm has, is a low aperture, and basically what that means is kind of like the high depth of field that you can, is that the right, high depth of field that you get with a lot of images. So you kind of like
blurred, glossy background.
So kind of like crisp it's crisp subject and kind of hazy background, so that's why they work best.
And bloggers love that. We all love a blurred background, don't we?
Yeah.
We all love to look as filtered and sassy as possible. Yeah. The next question we got asked was about what camera is best to travel with. So this is quite a tricky one, because I don't think it's totally essential to have a certain type of camera. It's just what you feel most comfortable with, I think. Like I've traveled.
What you most feel comfortable
carrying about and essentially, I love travelling with a DSLR because I think the quality is kind of second to none, and I know that they're not the most practical cameras all the time, especially if it's quite a heavy body and you're doing a lot of travelling about. It depends what kind of holiday you're on as well. I think if you're on a beachy holiday, something a bit more point and shoot is really handy, so you can kind of throw it in your bag and not worry about it. Whereas with a DSLR, it's kind of one of those ones you have to commit to wearing it around your neck, and I don't know, it is very dependent, I think. I mean, I'd say you can probably get away with carrying a point and shoot on holiday.
It is just whatever you feel comfortable. I mean, a lot of point and shoots, like the Olympus, you can get some really great content.
So many bloggers use it for every photo, and they're beautiful. And it's a really good camera because you can use it really throw it in your bag, get it out, but then you can also tap around your neck and really be on it with that. So I think the Olympus is a really great travel camera. It's a good middle ground. I took it away with me to Thailand, and I was actually really happy with the shots. I was quite worried about how they were going to come out.
They came out really well, yeah.
Yes, thanks. But yeah, that is the answer for that one. So we got a few questions in regards to the way we shoot photos. So one of the questions was, how do you shoot really light photos without losing resolution? So Joe can answer this because he is the technical whiz.
So essentially the main thing, I mean, it fits in actually with another question we have about what format we shoot in. So basically the best for outfit photos. So the best way to shoot is to shoot in RAW. And the reason for that,
a lot of people told me to shoot in RAW for ages, and I was just like, no, JPEG, JPEG. Shoot in RAW. It will change your life.
The file sizes are much larger, but it's worth it because essentially you can do so much more in the editing process afterwards. So instead of, if you're shooting in JPEG, effectively if you're trying to brighten something up or reduce brightness, you have to reduce it for everything. But when you're shooting in RAW, there are several. You've got kind of the highlights, the shadows, the whites, blacks, and essentially you can move it up and down without affecting the other parts. So basically, that's one of the reasons why you can kind of get quite a light and airy shot without losing resolution, because you're only.
If you turn down the highlights, you can up the blacks in the picture or the clarity, so you can get the detail of the face.
Yeah.
Without kind of making it too overexposed, and it just gives you that freedom, I think, shooting in RAW. And in terms of other settings, is there anything else that I think it just depends on weather? And I mean, we always shoot in manual. That's probably a good thing to know.
The best thing if you want to get really crisp photos, the best thing to do is make sure that the shutter speed is as quick as possible. So what it'll be kind of like a 1/100. So basically what that means is that it shoots, the time that the lens is open is 100th of a second. So basically you want to get that as low as possible to make sure that it's as quick as possible so it's as crisp and it's not as blurred. And secondly, you want to make sure the ISO is as low as possible. The reason for that is that the higher the ISO, the more grain that you're going to have in the image. So that's not always possible because of lighting issues, but that's the best way to do it.
It can be quite a nice thing sometimes when you're shooting during the day and in bright sunlight.
Yes, yeah.
It is dependent on the situation, because sometimes I like to shoot with quite a high ISO, but that's when I'm out during the day and it's bright sunshine, whereas if you're shooting indoors in like a dark environment, the grain will really be noticeable.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just kind of, I mean, to be perfectly honest,
but
really
I'd
is.
say shooting in manual and learning kind of.
Yeah, just kind of play around with it really, that's how we learn.
Yeah, but I think manual is the first step, because I went from being auto and JPEG and being like non-negotiable to being like, wow, my options just changed dramatically. But yeah, that's probably the long way round, a short answer.
Yes.
So the last kind of technical question we got was about shooting with different light during different times of day and how we kind of juggle that and make it work, because obviously we live in the UK, which is quite unpredictable.
It's about as unpredictable as it's ever been the last month.
Yeah, it's really hard to know how to shoot with like shade or with bright sunlight. And how do we, I think primarily we always try and shoot in the shade. Oh, it's not always possible.
Yes,
but
that's kind of the general rule of thumb. The shooting in direct sunlight, especially when direct sunlight is coming directly onto the person you're shooting, can be difficult, because essentially you want as flat light as possible, because that makes editing much easier. So
it can look really cool when you've got shadows, but it's just making it work and them not being too harsh.
Yeah, because it makes it very difficult.
Yeah, even editing can struggle with that.
Yeah.
But I think the best kind of light scenario is when it's a bright day but lots of shady areas that you can kind of have that
kind of the best
glow,
of both worlds,
but then still have the flatness. I know there's lots of really amazing apps that you can use that kind of, you can follow the sun. I think I was with an Instagrammer once and he showed me this app and it follows the sun, so you know what kind of shadowing you're going to have and where the light's going to be, and you can, like, if you're really into that, you can really plan it well. I mean, we should do that more, I think, because sometimes we go out and we're like, oh, this is really hard. But in terms of shooting indoors, we try, there's a dog walking about, sorry, Maggie is just like pattering about, if you can hear that. But in terms of shooting outdoors, we largely, we largely use just an umbrella light, which we picked up off Amazon. It's not always essential. We can shoot in natural light, like today we've got it on, but it's not necessary. But
once again, flat light is usually best.
I mean, I'd love a ring light, you know, it'd probably make me look a little bit nicer. But yeah, they're the kind of lighting tips we have. Any more? Any more light you'd like to shed?
A good tip to have is that if it is sunny, essentially try and shoot the opposite side of the road where the sun's hitting, because especially in London there's a lot of white houses that can effectively work as like a reflector. So basically it means that you can still have light, but it's a flat light, if that makes sense. So that's kind of like a nice trick.
Top tip.
Yeah.
Hashtag top tip. So another one of the questions that we got asked a lot was about editing, how we edit the photos and how we edit Instagram photos. So it's funny because we both edit quite differently. Like
on completely different software.
Yeah.
Well, same but different.
Yeah, Joe gets quite frustrated because I kind of do each image individually. Like you use Bridge.
Yeah,
to
effectively.
All of them and kind of sweep and edit over them and then kind of tailor it. Whereas I'm very much like each image one.
I don't understand it. Effectively, she uses Photoshop, which is that, and that's how you have to do it. You have to upload an image.
You can use Bridge and then Photoshop.
I don't know why you don't though.
I don't know. It's going to be like the whole raw and manual situation. In a few years, I'll be like, why did I not do this?
I know, it's silly.
But I basically use a set of presets from VSCO Cam or Visco Cam that you can use on Photoshop. So I kind of play around with those a little bit. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't, but they've got some really amazing packages that you can buy. A Beautiful Mess also have a really nice selection of them, and curves, so you can kind of upload them and use them whether you're shooting JPEG or RAW, which are so handy. I think with the VSCO Cam you can only use on RAW.
Yes, that is true.
But
I think they're really good, the VSCO Cam filters,
really
because
good.
You use them. I don't really use them, to be honest.
I use them all the time, but you don't.
But what something really handy that they do is that they effectively have kind of like auto tone and auto auto white balance temperatures, and basically it's really good if you're starting out and you don't really know what everything does. So effectively, if you use auto tone on an image, you can effectively, it kind of gives you a best judgment of what the best edit would be.
Yeah.
And that's really good because you can actually see, right, well, that's gone down, that's gone up. So that kind of gives you an understanding of what the different things work.
I think I've got a few tutorials and things if you want to kind of practice around with that. Which leads into actually how I edit my Instagram photos, which is primarily VSCO Cam or VSCO Cam. I haven't actually updated it since the new update. Because everyone hates it now because of the lack of grid situation.
Oh,
you don't really think about this, but a lot of people are like, But I haven't actually updated it because I never update anything on my phone ever until my phone basically gives up on me and it's like, I just need it to be updated. So I've still used that. I know Carrie, my friend Carrie, did an amazing post with lots of new apps you can use to plan your grid. So I'll link that below because that was really amazing. But I use that, and I use the Beautiful Mess One app, which is called A Colourful Life.
Something like that.
Let me just check because
I
really love it.
That's what it's called.
It's a bit love-hate. I know some people.
It can work.
It's called Colour Story. A Colourful Life.
It can work, it can not.
Yeah, it's kind of depending on what kind of edit you want on your pictures.
Yeah.
It's good because you can use curves on it as well, slightly. Yeah. So that's a really nice one as well. And I think it's nice. I think it's free. Is it free? It's either free or really, really cheap.
Yeah.
But they are the apps I use, and I hugely recommend those for Instagram.
So the next question we had was basically saying that did we ever experiment in our photography? Did we have kind of a particular style we were going for, or did it just kind of happen? So you're probably best to answer this first.
Yeah, well, I did photography at A-level, and that was kind of where I really discovered a passion for it. I really loved doing A-level. I was very much inspired by lots of fashion photographers. I love Tim Walker. I loved the kind of playfulness of his stuff. I loved, I can't remember where she's from, but a photographer called Lena Shanius. I can't remember her surname, I probably said it really wrong, but she did a lot of really cool film photography, and I think those kind of photographers really inspired that. And I think although my photography, if you look really far back on my blog, you see pictures of balloons and all that kind of super twee.
Very Tim Walker style.
Yeah, when I say very Tim Walker style, we use that hugely loosely. This isn't anywhere near. My friend actually, or blogger, photographer, I feel like Alex Cameron does amazing stuff like that, which is far more Tim Walker in line with that than my early stuff ever was. But I think that kind of looking at the more kind of feminine, kind of quite girly. I love bright colours in photography. I'm not really a blogger that kind of edges away from brightness. I white tones. I like a lot of colour. I like bright walls. I like things like that. And I think that kind of did shape that quite early on. I don't know. I think your style's quite different to mine in a sense.
Yeah. Because I'm not remotely taught or anything. So I kind of did just kind of I kind of experimented in the sense that I didn't have it was a complete blank canvas. So I've just kind of. I think I never started with a particular idea in my mind. It's just kind of naturally evolved from how we've shot.
Yeah, I mean, my early blog photography was hugely contrasted and kind of leading on from the whole MySpace thing.
Yeah.
That kind of, lots of saturation, lots of contrast, quite harsh and brash, but it's definitely, I think I'm always developing my style. There are blogs I love who use a lot of film, and I'm always looking at theirs I want to do that, and it's kind of fusing the kind of more polished look with something a little bit more undone. And
I think you naturally take ideas on without even realising, really.
Yeah, of course. I think when you read a lot of different blogs and you're on Pinterest for as long as I am, you do kind of, you're constantly getting inspired, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just it's never clicked. I don't want to be like, I just knew what to do, but
yeah. An important thing to bear in mind when you're doing kind of street style blogging photography is that you're not in a studio. Not everything has to be exactly perfect, and the way I personally find is that it's kind of almost the imperfections that make it more realistic, because you're trying to, when doing photography, you're trying to paint a narrative of what the person is doing during that day. So it doesn't have to be every single part, every single hand move, like hand in a very specific place. It kind of can be a bit more organic, a bit more free flowing.
It'd be like when you do photography at A-level or art, when it has to be like a complete copy. It can just, it's just, that's what makes it so personal and enjoyable. It's just, take the best bits about what you like and just absorb a lot. Just read a lot, flip through magazines, like tear out colours or anything. That's what I do. Yeah. Deep.
Next question, do you ever feel conscious with people watching?
So I think you feel more conscious with people watching than I do. Like, I think you get something, point blank, it's something you get used to.
Yeah,
like,
it is just something that you do have to
when we first started,
around.
We'd kind of sacrifice the location we really wanted to use because it was on a busy street and we'd shoot somewhere quiet. But I think the more confident you get, like in anything, like you just don't mind doing it in front of people. You think, do you know what, this is work, I won't see these people again. And they don't really know what I'm doing anyway. So it's more like you just have to think people are just interested. Like, not to be like, self-indulgent or like people just want to know what we're doing, but in a kind of way it makes you feel like people are just like curious because it's a weird thing to see, someone potentially lying on the floor trying to get a shot of someone being like that. So
but it is just something that you do kind of have to get used to. And I think the important thing to say is that everyone, even the biggest bloggers have been conscious in the past. I've shot with a lot of people, and even some of the biggest people I've shot with can be a bit, not just even with people watching, but just kind of like conscious of how they look in general. Like all those sort of things, they're very natural feelings.
It's with photography or with posing or with anything, it's just practice makes perfect, which is really obvious and really predictable. But
sorry, it's not a better answer, but it is true.
Practice in your mirror.
Okay, last question. What do you do with your arms?
Love this.
Every time I shoot, I struggle to know what to do with them.
Yeah, I'm sorry we haven't included any names to getting to this point because
there was a few questions that a few people asked, and
we were just like, it's easier. But that was my favourite. What do I do with my arms? What do you do with your arms when you're shooting?
Well, no, but when I'm shooting for my blog, I always end up doing that. Just kind of like, I know what you mean. It is difficult to know what to do with your arms.
That's quite good though, but it wouldn't work for me.
No, I think with girls it can be a lot easier. Kind of like
you just get the dainty hand down, be like,
Once again, I think this is a bit like the last question. It is just kind of.
Don't be too aware of your arms. Is probably what I'd say.
Yeah, because then you end up looking too rigid.
Just don't think about them. Just like stand as you'd stand or walk how you'd walk. But I think don't be aware of your arms.
I mean, not just about arms, but just kind of like movement in general. Like, don't worry if you feel like you're looking a bit silly, because when I shoot with you, when I shoot with kind of a lot of other bloggers, when I shoot with brands, 90% of the images that I take on are completely unusable. So but it's true. You know what I mean, though.
No one's gonna want to shoot with you again. She'll be like, well,
no, but they
I shoot with people. Most of the images I take are crap. So.
But it's always going to be the case. Like no one, like when I'm editing something, I don't think, oh, what was she doing because her hand is slightly in the wrong place. But there are a lot of images that I get through those sort of movements, that one that's perfect. So I think the important thing is like kind of like don't worry about what you're doing, just kind of like honestly don't worry.
The best images come from the weirdest movements.
Yeah, that is genuinely really true. The best ones do come from the ones where you feel like you're doing something ridiculous, but it works out. Bless you.
I was hoping he'd wrap that up sooner so I could sneeze, but alas.
But that's just the important thing. Bless you.
That is the important thing.
Yes.
So, thank you so much for watching. We have another special guest doing the outro with us. I don't know if you can actually see her, you can probably see like an ear, but there is a dog. There is a dog called Maggie. But yes, thank you so much for watching. I really hope there was some useful information in there and you enjoyed it. So. Wasn't too rambly. Maggie found it very long-winded and rambly because she's wanted to move the whole time. But yes, let us know what you'd like to see next, and if you'd like to see anything else photography or blog related, and we can get on that as well. And it'll be less rambly next time. So yeah, thank you so much. Subscribe and thumbs up if you liked it as well. It would mean a lot to us and Maggie. Most to Maggie though. And we'll see you next week or Wednesday.
Yeah, see you Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye bye.